My name is Ed Crossin. I'm a Senior Digital Intelligence Manager at Roche. And as part of AMEC's AI Day and AI in the Real World, I'm delighted to welcome to our discussion today and the interview series a very special guest, an expert who joins us from Fin Partners Global Intelligence. Welcome, Thomas Morris.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
So, Thomas, got a few questions around the topic of AI in the real world. But before we get to those questions, would you mind please introducing yourself?
Yeah, no problem at all. So I'm Thomas. I lead the intelligence team at Fin Partners in EMEA. So Fin Partners is a 1,500 strong global marketing comms agency. We have 35 plus offices across the world. And our intelligence team, what we really do is work very closely alongside our PR and marketing colleagues to help our clients navigate the kind of complex media landscape. So whether that's corporate reputation, public affairs, brand marketing, pure PR. And how we do that is by trying to really make sense of media, audience, market data in ways that are not just numbers, but really actually help inform decision making. And increasingly, because of that, obviously we're working with AI, but we're also stress testing it, making sure that it's suitable for us and our clients. So I'm excited for this conversation today. It will be a good one, I'm sure.
Thanks very much, Thomas, for that introduction. So my first question to open it up today is, what is one word that you would use for AI in the outlook and what remains of this year and into early 2026?
I was going to say cautious, but I feel like upon reflection, that's too conservative. So I think I'll say disciplined instead. I mean, I don't need to tell you, Ed, that the hype cycle around AI has been absolutely enormous. And for us, it seemed like last year, coming into this year, every client, every colleague wanted to talk to us about AI applications, how we're using it for media measurement, intelligence purposes, creating personas. But I think the conversations have been very broad. And I went to a conference last week, and there was a topic on AI, and I think that's just too vague, right? And what do we mean by AI? Are we talking about LLMs? Are we talking about ChatGPT? Are we talking about machine learning, predictive analytics? I think that kind of catch-all term makes it really hard to pin down what we mean. I think now we're starting to see more kind of sensible conversations, and it's led us less about, this is really exciting, but more about what can it do for us and how can we use it to drive efficiency? Is it driving efficiency? Is it actually saving us time, improving quality? So I think we're moving from the kind of, shiny new object, this is going to completely transform the industry, to more now a kind of disciplined conversation about how do we actually use this and what are the key benefits that we see.
That's a really interesting answer, Thomas. Thank you for that. And as we sort of go a little bit further and we apply the microscope to those bright, shiny objects in the real life application of AI, and when we think about the core activities around media measurement, media intelligence, what do you think that actually looks like in the next 1 to 2 years?
So I think where we are now, obviously the automation component, I think we're kind of well into that, almost having completed that from a kind of media intelligence measurement point of view. Most of us are using platforms that have AI embedded in them to help with kind of the, tagging, counting, pulling out key themes. I think what excites me in the next few years is starting to think about how can we use AI to pull across different data sets. So at Fin Partners, we're starting to pilot and stress test about not how we just look at, say, processing media coverage, but how can we then layer in things such as search data or web analytics or kind of analytics from our digital campaigns that we may be running, even perhaps consumer sentiment surveys. So I think the exciting thing there is that then for our clients, we're not just looking at we're not looking at headlines, whether it being the National for me, whether that's the Sydney Morning Herald, whether it's the FT. We're not just saying, okay, they've produced a positive story on your brand, but then we can look at, well, what was the impact of that? 48 hours after that, did we see increases in search activity in Dubai or Sydney? Did we see increases in website traffic? Have we seen stock market changes? So I think it's about, rounding out our view of measurement to go beyond just the media component and think about the real life impact of that. And that's always been the huge challenge of PR is, what does it actually mean? What does that headline mean for a brand or an organization? And I think that AI, with its ability to kind of process huge amounts of data, is going to allow us to take steps to better kind of attribute overall business performance to individual PR campaigns.
Yeah, you certainly highlight an exciting frontier there, Thomas, in further insights in that layering in of extra data and what it means for communications and media impact. So in the battle between human and AI, in between machine and what a human can provide in that expertise around communications and media measurement, what's your perspective? Who wins that battle and why?
I want to hope humans, right? I think we all, I mean, I hope it's not a battle. And if it is, I hope we win. But I believe that humans would. But I think, the reality is way more nuanced than that. It's not a binary thing here. I think ultimately the winners in our industry and many others are going to be humans, but humans that have the intelligence and the flexibility to work with AI and incorporate that into their roles and to understand the opportunities. So I think maybe that's me sitting on the fence slightly, but I think that's the reality of things. And the reason for that, I mentioned the conference I was in Dubai last week. It was a PR conference, and there was a presentation by Alexander Akin. Now, he works for the UAE government now, but he used to head up comms for the UK government. And he was talking about the passing of the Queen and the amount of work from a communications point of view that went into planning for that. So there's, it was 10 years or so they were planning for this huge media event. And afterwards, they looked at kind of their reporting, and it was AI generated, a lot of the reporting that they were doing. And if you looked at the reporting purely from a kind of media point of view, it looked like it was a disaster because everything was tagged negatively. Now, we know the reason why that was tagged negatively because of the topic. It was about, funeral and the death of someone very important. But actually, a lot of the coverage was, way more positive than that, looking back on her life, etc. So I think that's why humans are always going to be required. It's that kind of nuanced understanding. And certainly in everything that we do, I think AI can get us closer to the answer quicker, but that human overlay, I think, is always going to be important. It's certainly kind of incredibly important now. I don't necessarily see that changing.
You make a really important point there, where the humans can provide that nuance and context where perhaps a machine cannot. So, Thomas, you've touched on a little bit about some of the areas that Fin Partners is looking into and piloting and testing. I'm interested to understand, what does the AI application look like currently in Fin Partners right now in your role, and anything sort of day to day where you're frequently using AI?
Yeah, so we use AI as everyone does every day from a kind of measurement and reporting point of view. It gets us well, it allows us to kind of look at huge data sets and pull out insights far quicker. And then as an agency, we're starting to pilot and actually roll out products for more interesting use cases. So just recently this year, we launched a proprietary crisis comms AI model. And I think this is a huge area where AI can really help us. What we've seen from a crisis point of view is that today, managing the facts actually is not the most important thing of crisis communications. It's managing the narrative. We can see how stories spin out of control. Bad agents may come in and manipulate messages. You'll see algorithms that push things that are extraordinary rather than factual. So we need to prepare for this environment. And that's where we're using AI as a kind of safe space for us to really stress test different crises and different messages. So we, alongside our clients, kind of hold workshops using this proprietary AI product. And we look at kind of real-time media behaviors. We ask them to respond in real time to live pressure inquiries. We look at how stories may get out of control. We ask them to kind of run community management in real time. And this is something you just couldn't do without AI. The speed of being able to actually create this crisis in real time and see the impact of the things you do from a communications point of view is really, really powerful. So we're kind of rolling that out quite broadly, and I think that's really exciting. The other, I guess, from a personal point of view, I often use it as a kind of sparring partner. So, if we're creating kind of measurement platforms for our clients, I would use it to test perhaps gaps in that and ask AI questions such as, if you're a CMO, what kind of questions would you be asking about this measurement framework? And I think that from that point of view, on a daily basis, it's incredibly helpful. But yeah, there are so many kind of exciting use cases, I'm sure you know. So we're as I said, we're testing it, we're piloting it in a disciplined manner, but there's certainly lots of exciting things going on.
Thanks, Thomas, and I love that description of a sparring partner. It's definitely the way that I use it from time to time. So just to close our discussion today, and thanks so much again for joining us, a final question for you, which is, what is your AI top tip and then an AI watch out?
I think my top tip would be, and I guess this is for measurement professionals, but also for any professional, is I like to think of the AI we use as a more junior colleague. And what you need to do there is give them clear instructions, check the work. And if you do that, you'll get brilliant results. You need to obviously train the system as you would a colleague. If you don't, if it's kind of vague instructions and vague briefs, you're going to be rewriting that work from scratch. So I think the most successful projects that we run are those where we use AI to do a lot of the groundwork, but it's the human analysts and that kind of nuance that really elevates that work. So I think it's the combination of those two things. On the watch out side, I would say over-reliance. Don't get addicted to AI and don't become reliant on its use. And critically, I think, don't outsource the thought component of our work. I think that always needs to be human. I've seen kind of teams, whether that be within our agency or client teams, that perhaps get dazzled by the output and the speed of AI, only later to discover that some of those details may be wrong. Now that's, AI makes mistakes. We know that. There's been a lot of research that showed that. Humans do too. I think the critical difference there is that when AI makes mistakes, it's still completely convincing. It's convincingly wrong, and that is, the biggest watch out that we need to be careful of. Always ask questions. We need to stay curious, and we need to make sure that we always stress test the output.
Some wise words to finish up there. And thanks again, Thomas. I'm sure your insights and expertise will be enjoyed and will enlighten many of our AMEC members. Thanks again.
Thank you, Ed. I appreciate it. Thank you for your time.